Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. Today we're going to look at the flying ability, or the flying powers, basically. If this is your first character that you're making in this universe online, I strongly suggest that you use a flying character, or I guess a skimming character would actually do the trick too. The reason for that is that there are certain maps that are much more difficult to navigate if you're playing an acrobat or a super speed character. And also, there's on certain maps where you can actually avoid certain enemies if you're a flying character. I will make a demonstration about that in a bit. And also, if there's items that are in a hard to reach place, it's very easy to go get them with your flying character. If you have a super speed character or an acrobat character, a bit more difficult. So let's go through all the flight powers first. I will start by looking at the two supercharges. Actually, let's look at all the powers very quickly, and then I will show you what the powers do on the combat dummies. So basically, you have supersonic. It's pretty much the ability that allows you to fly faster. Now let's show it to you right away so that you understand what you're saying. So basically, if you click on the left joystick once, it gives your character starts to fly. But if you push and hold the left joystick, then you go into supersonic speed. It's pretty much that simple. So let's take a look at the tree again. So we just showed you what supersonic speed does. There's an ability called Dive Bomb. It's an innate ability. Basically, you don't need to activate any power to do that. The way to do that is pretty simple. Oh, I messed up. You just fly down really fast, and you will do some damage to enemies around you. It's a nice ability that doesn't really cost you anything other than the time it takes you to go up and come back down, assuming you don't mess up like I just did. It doesn't do that much damage from what I remember, although I didn't try it since game update 73, so maybe it's better than I remembered. The one drawback though is that sometimes you will see let's say a healing barrel, and you will tell yourself, oh, let's go get that barrel in the corner. So you'll fly really fast to the barrel, and then you'll pretty much trigger your ability, and it will destroy the barrel. So that happens. So this was for dive bomb. For the other abilities like whirlwind attack, downdraft, swoop attack, high pressure, low pressure, air burst, dust stuff is actually supercharge. I'll show it to you in a minute. And vacuum bubble. Somehow there's only two supercharges in the flight tree. I seem to recall there was three for the acrobat, the super speed, and I think there's three also in the acrobat. It's been a long time, so I could be mistaken. So we'll start by, oh, and of course you have the resistance. You have the stun resistance that gives you 10% extra resistance to stun. And there's also the restrained resistance that basically give you 10% resistance to things like encase, root, and all that good stuff. And there's also the stun recovery, which when you break out from a stun, it will give you a bit more a bit of power back. And the same with restrained recovery. If you break out from a root or an encasement or something like that, you will gain back a bit of power. And if you take the breakout mastery, you'll get even a tiny bit more power when you do that. So let's start by looking at the two supercharge, which are basically dust off and vacuum bubble. That stuff basically shoots you in the air, spreading a shockwave that knocks down enemies, while rendering you immune to most control effect and damage for a short time. So it's a good ability if you want to run away very quickly. And here we have Vacuum Bubble. It releases a violent pressure wave that damages and stun enemies. So let's give it a try. Let's try the first one. What's it called again? So let's try the vacuum bubble, and we'll do the dust off next. So this is vacuum bubble and what it does. I will only do it once because it's a supercharge, and it takes a long time to recharge a supercharge. I took the time to charge my supercharge full so we could actually look at that. So let's see what it actually does. And that was pretty much it. So let's try dust off now. Dust off, let's go a bit, I'm not sure how high we're going to go, so let's go over here. So dust off, basically you're going to go like, oh. So as you saw, you went in the air really, really fast. We still have a bit of supercharge left. Let's see what it does if we do it close to an enemy. But as you can see, the cooldown is pretty long. So even though it's a supercharge, there's also a pretty long cooldown, as you can see. As opposed to the vacuum bubble, which I didn't notice how fast the supercharge was, but it seems to have been fairly fast. So let's try to do the dust off once more. I'm not sure if it's going to affect the combat dummy, but we'll see. I did throw them down. Okay, so now let's take a look at the other abilities. So again, it's a whirlwind attack, downdraft. So whirlwind attack will do a bunch of damage to a bunch of enemies as we fly around them. Downdraft, buffet your enemies with a vengeful wind, causing damage in an area around your target. Swoop attack, basically you ram into your opponent, your target. Low pressure, you create a backdraft that damage and sucks enemies, nearby enemies. And then there's some power interaction with high pressure. High pressure, it creates a region of violent airflow that damage and knocks back enemies. And again, it has some power interaction with low pressure. And there's air burst, which can be used while controlled. It's nice to be able to break out from certain ability that will sometimes knock you down. So again, we're going with whirlwind attack, downdraft, swoop attack, low pressure, high pressure, and air burst. So let's get started. So here basically you can see you're just flying around in circles. The energy thingy, don't take that into account. It's my weapon that has a mod that's doing that. Okay, so let's try this. So whirlwind attack, basically you fly in circle, pretty much damaging all your enemies around you. Sometimes it'll knock them back too, but doesn't seem to work on the combat dummies, sadly. There's certain effects like that that don't seem to affect the combat dummies. So it makes it a bit difficult to actually show what some powers actually do. So let's try the other one. Again, you can see that it does damage to enemies, but you don't really see exactly what happens. And let's try. So here you can see basically you ram into your enemies. It's a pretty good ability to catch up to when if an enemy tries to escape. Bam! You can really catch up to it, and also sometimes it'll knock them down. Again, doesn't work on the dummies, but anyways. So let's try high pressure and low pressure. So basically, high pressure, as you can see, creates some sort of whirlwind effect around your opponents. I'm not sure if it's supposed to knock them down or something or anything like that. As you saw, the combat dummies sometimes aren't affected by the abilities. And let's try the other one. So these two abilities pretty much interact with each other. So ideally, if you take one of them, you're going to want to take both of them so that you can use the power interaction. And last but not least, it's an ability that allows you to break out from certain enemy effects, just like that. Also, usually, sometimes it will throw away or throw down the enemies that are around you, that are surrounding you. And you can see there's a somewhat long cooldown, so you cannot do it as often as you would like sometimes. But it's one extra ability that allows you to break out from certain effects. So that's pretty much it for the flight powers. Although I will go into the open world to show you at least some of the abilities, how they actually work on enemies, and also to show you why I strongly suggest that you use flying powers if it is your first character. So let's go. So I'll show you in a bit in Gotham Under Siege why I strongly suggest that if you start a new character, that you actually start with a flying character. It will make certain things much easier for you if you do that. So sometimes you'll have collections or investigations and hard to reach places, like let's say this little place here. So if there was something here, coming here with an acrobat and a speedster is a bit challenging, as opposed to with a flying character. You just come here, grab your thing you want, and continue on your way. And also, if you're looking for an objective, for a specific enemy, or for a specific NPC, much easier to just fly above your enemies and just look around for whatever it is that you're looking for. And then if you see what you're looking for, then you go down, fight whatever enemies you need, and just go back up and leave. Like, I'm trying to find an example. Well, let's go with that little lady here. So basically, if you need that enemy, you just defeat her. Ooh, an arcane type capsule. So again, you can see you can knock them down. That doesn't seem to do anything. So you can push them, pull them towards you, or push them back with high pressure and low pressure. Let's try that again. And there are certain abilities that have some pretty long animation. For example, this here. If you want to break out from the animation, quite simply, just press the jump button. And you're going to stop the... it's going to interrupt the animation. Let's try it a bit more. Where's my... let's try and find an actual mission. It'll probably make more sense. Well, let's go for this one. So you'll see, basically, when you're looking for certain specific enemies, much easier to just fly around. You see a whole bunch of enemies down there. If you have no business going there, you just stay up in the air and don't go see them enemies. It makes it a lot easier in certain maps to just escape a whole bunch of enemies, as opposed to if you're an acrobat, or even worse, a speedster. Sometimes you end up pulling a whole bunch of enemies behind you that you didn't mean to. So as you can see, we can pull her with the first, I think it's high pressure, and then pull her back if we need to with low pressure. And of course, it also does damage to your opponent. And if you want to knock her down, again, you can just ram her. It seems to work well enough. The same with, as you can see, the whirlwind attack works well to pretty much knock down enemies. And the movement abilities are much more useful than they used to be. At some point, they were pretty much a little more than fun abilities that you would use just for the fun of it. But nowadays, they're actually pretty effective. And you can, I'm not sure if you can actually really use them in endgame. I haven't tried that just yet. But in most missions, they will do the trick. They will work well enough. Let's try again. So as you can see, you can pretty much knock them down easily with the whirlwind attack. Or even pull them. Oh, it didn't work. And again, if you're looking for a very specific enemy, you just fly above whatever enemies are down there and look for the one enemy you're looking for. Like right now, we're looking for some royal outrunners. So we can just fly around and look for the character we're looking for. Again, the energy bubble has nothing to do with flight powers. It's just my mod. I have a mod in my gloves that does that. Oh no, she fell down. Oh yeah, I didn't try the... let's show you what the dive bomb actually does. So as you saw, it does a bit of damage, and also it threw them it knocked them down a bit. And here we could see the breakout ability. So again, let's try the dive bomb again. I'm going to die, so let's drink a cola. And enough monkey business. Oh. As you saw, the dive bomb knocked her down a bit. Not sure why it isn't. It's probably my timing that's off, or maybe it doesn't work all the time. There could be an invisible cooldown that I don't know about. Maybe you can do it only once every few seconds. I'm not so sure about that, but anyways. So we don't really need to finish her off, so let's go. And also, as you can see, if you want to get away from an enemy, just fly up, and away. And you can escape pretty much any ground enemies. You can pretty much escape them just flying up in the air. So again, if you're playing, now let's try and find ourselves maybe a collection in a hard-to-reach place or an exhibit. Like a top, something like that. It can be a bit tricky or annoying to go grab some items. Actually, I know where we could go. We're going to go into the regular version of Gotham to show you something. So here I will show you how flying will make your life a bit easier. Basically, this is where I used to go, well, where I still go when I need to farm for exhibits. And I'm sad to say that I know pretty much where all the exhibits and the amusement mile, and also not just the amusement mile, but pretty far way down the map where I'm looking. I pretty much know where all the exhibits spawn in this area, sadly, because I farmed for exhibits so much here that by now I pretty much know all of them by heart. So basically, when there's an exhibit all the way up here, much easier to come with your flying character than if you're struggling with a non-flying character. So if you're doing something as simple as farming for exhibits or looking for collections, it's so much easier with a flying character that that's why I strongly suggest, if you're going to do that, to make a new character, make it a flying character at first. It's more easy, it's more convenient, and also, as I mentioned, there are certain maps where when you try to navigate those maps with an acrobat or a speedster, much more difficult than if you're just flying around with your flying character. So sure, for some collections like this at ground level, doesn't matter which one you're using. But if you need to go all the way up, let's say here, again, much easier with a flying character. Even going through obstacles like that, it's a bit easier. So I'm going to start rambling, so I guess I'm sure you guys get the idea by now. So just a quick recap. So basically, we have our supersonic ability that allows us to go faster. We have the dive bomb, as you saw, that knocks down enemies when you go down and does a bit of damage to them. There's a whirlwind attack, which allows you to fly in circle and pretty much knock down any enemies around you. There's the downdraft, which not sure exactly what it did. As you saw, it didn't seem to do much when we used it. Swoop attack basically allows you to ram into your opponent and knock them down. And as you saw, high pressure pulls enemies towards you. Low pressure pulls them away from you, and both interact with each other. So again, if you use one of them, you may as well use both of them. The air burst allows you to free you from certain control effects, or if you're held down or if you're knocked down, it's a good ability to be able to use. The dust off basically allows you to go up in the air, and it's also a shield that will protect your character. And the vacuum bubble does some damage to your enemies. Let's use the dust stuff one last time just to show you. And let's do it with enemies nearby. So let's find ourselves a bunch of clowns. There's a few. And let's pull back a bit. So let's see what the dust stuff will do. No, we didn't really see. So basically it projects you in the air. Oh, it did knock down one of the clowns, I think. Or both of them, actually. And then you just need to wait for the cooldown if you want to do it again. It's a fairly good ability if you want to run away. Let's see if we can try it again. And let's put our camera like that. So as you saw, it did enough damage to the clowns to knock them out. So now for reals, I guess we're done for now. So that's pretty much it for now, guys. If you liked the video, click the like button or the shared button, or even better, subscribe. And also there's that little bell that you can click that will warn you whenever there's a new video. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.